Hey, ever feel stuck and wonder why some people achieve greatness while others remain average? Join me, Mark Jean, and Beyond Average to Great as we uncover the secrets to breaking free from mediocrity and unlock the greatness within you. Through inspiring stories and insights from people who have changed their lives, you'll learn how strong decisions and bold actions can take you to the next level. Let's go. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Average to Great, where our guest is Ken Miller, and Ken has a new book out. And just a little bit about Ken, we're going to talk about the book in just a minute, but Ken went from Ivy League graduate to homeless addict, and ultimately a respected keynote speaker and mentor, and has lived every side of the human experience. And so now he shares his journey to inspire others and to rise above their past and to help them build lives of purpose. And so, Ken, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to share with you. Looking forward to this. Let's do it.
Yeah. So tell me, what inspired you to write your book?
What inspired me to write my book was everybody asking me, you need to write a book. You
Okay.
need to write a book. My experiences are not unique. Everything that I've experienced, other individuals have experienced. It's unusual that an individual with my background could go as low as I went.
Mm-hmm.
To be an Ivy leaguer, I used to be a model. I've run businesses. I was in the corporate world. I've had a lot of success. And then my substance misuse and abuse, put me in a situation where literally for almost 20 years I was homeless and, went to prison 3 times. So how do you take that past story and then put it into something that's, obviously my present and who am I today? So I was high, went low, and now I'm back up, on top of the mountain.
That's amazing. So what was the catalyst that created that change for you when you were at your
Yeah, God, you
okay?
want to keep it simple, was
Yeah.
God. But, you know, before you can listen to God, sometimes you have to be still. And I needed to get still. And so the state of Nevada allowed me an opportunity to be still.
Mm.
And it allowed me opportunity to listen. I listened to God speak to me. And then you can listen all day long, but if you don't do something about it or listen and take heed to the direction, then it's all for naught. But I did.
Yeah. 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 One of the things that I'm learning to do as well is a lot of times the action that we take doesn't have to be some big action. It just has to be some small incremental action that we do disciplinedly, or that we instill discipline to do it consistently each
Mhm.
day over time. And that's what yields that result of moving us towards greatness, which is the name of the podcast, Beyond Average to Great. So it takes us from being average. If we're doing those consistent habits every day and taking action towards those, it can move us towards greatness.
Assuredly. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. You know, I use a lot of analogies from lifting. I used to be a power lifter, and I always would say this: the weights do not lie. I used
Mm,
to say the iron does not lie. You can either lift a weight or you cannot. You can't will it, you can't hope it. But if you are consistent in your actions, you'll get stronger. But
mhm.
you have to be consistent. You can't do it all in one day, once a month. Can't. Doesn't work like that. Muscles don't work like that. And I find that habits, and there's something else that I've spoken of, I speak to, which is called grinding, and what that means, and the ability to grind or to create good habits that will bear results and bear fruit.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, weightlifting, because you just never you don't go from bench pressing 200 pounds to bench pressing 500 pounds. You go in increments. Maybe you start at 75, then you get to 100, And then consistently over time, next thing you know, you're pushing 500. So that's a great analogy. I'm writing that down just for my own reference. So you talk about, you mentioned the grind. And I mean, that's something that most everybody goes through on a daily basis. But how do you grind with purpose? Does that make sense?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, well, first of all, you have to define the purpose. You have to define the goal.
Yeah.
And the word I use a lot is aspiration. I love using words that have spirit in it, but aspiration.
Yeah.
So what are we aspiring for? So we set a goal, then we have to have consistent action. And this is a thing I do is I define the difference between a grind and a habit. A
Okay.
grind by nature has friction in it. There's pain, there's discomfort. That's what makes it a grind. If it's something you enjoy and you do it every day, that's just a habit. But the ability to grind, which means that we do consistent action over time in pursuit of the goal,
Hmm.
that entails some type of friction and or pain or discomfort.
Yeah.
And when we do that, there's a sense internal that we are doing the right thing, even though it does hurt. I'm in the gym 5 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week. Kobe Bryant is one of the greatest examples of a grinder.
Hmm.
To achieve greatness or achieve a level or achieve a goal. But going back to we have to have the purpose. That's also a part of the grind, is
Yeah.
that there is a purpose and that there has to be an emotional reason for the goal. Because intellectually, the body or the person will say, I need to stop. This hurts. This is discomforting. This is painful. And I'm talking about pain as more emotional pain. This is painful. So, what is my why? And the why can be spiritual, the why can be family. I used to run, I used to be a runner too. So, I used to run 10Ks and run, for half marathons, things of that nature. And there would be times where the pain, and it's not even really pain, it's discomfort is so great
Yeah.
that what am I going to do to continue to reach the goal, which is to usually get back to my home or wherever I'm ran from. And what I would do is I would get outside myself. It was two different things I would do. One, and this is one I think you've talked a little bit about, is I would have a small incremental success. I just want to get to the stop sign.
Hmm.
It's 100 feet away, it's 200 feet away. That one works for a while and then it is not as powerful. But the one that's even more powerful is I would get out of self and do it for someone else.
Yeah.
And I would run for my mother who's passed away, or I'd run for my wife at the time.
Mm.
And I would run, and I never failed when I got out of self because I failed myself 1,000 times. And then again, the grind, if you have a spiritual basis to your why,
Hmm.
many times we can turn to God or whatever your spiritual entity is and say, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for in honor of, in congruence with God's will.
Yeah.
And that is very, very powerful. It's been powerful for eons.
Yeah. I know personally for me that when I have too much attention, myself, attention focused on me, I tend to be, woe is me. I've got so much stuff to do. Life is so hard, as opposed to focusing my attention out on others. Who can I serve today? Who needs the services that we provide as a company? You know,
Mhm.
it helps me stay more encouraged, more engaged than focusing everything on me. And I heard somebody say what you talked about. You have to have a greater purpose for what you're doing to get through that grind. Someone had said, I'll take care of me for you if you take care of you for me. Meaning, you need to be the best person you can be health wise, spiritually,
Mhm.
um, personally, professionally, to be able to take care of your family. So that was their reasoning for that statement, was that they would take care of me. If I'll take care of me for you, if you take care of you for me.
Well, there's another principle that's involved, and it's called accountability.
Yeah.
And what we truly are is accountable to another
Mhm.
or another entity.
Yeah.
Uh, and but some people, many, I don't say many people aren't accountable. They don't have that trait,
Yeah.
and it's a trait that you can learn. So one of the things that I do, I work with a lot of men. I mentor, I coach, and one of the things that we work on is being accountable.
Mm.
And when I mentor, I have a book study group, and what we have is accountability partners. I have one. And even though I run the group, I
Yeah.
started it with all that, I still have an accountability partner because again, we have failed ourselves so many hundreds, if not thousands of
Mhm.
times that it's easy because nobody knows. It's
Yeah.
just me. But I have this other man that I've given my word, because now we can go to the word of integrity, where there's some congruence or alignment between words and my actions. My word to you is I will have this project done by next Friday.
Hmm.
Am I going to be accountable to you and to that project? And so, anyway, so when we're running, if we can be accountable to others, the other aspect to also look at is the pain is of self. The pain is of self.
Hmm.
It's my pain. It's my shins that hurt, or my hamstrings that hurt when I'm running.
Hmm.
It's my pain, or it's my pain having to get up at 6 o'clock because I own businesses, start my
Yeah.
business and work with my staff or my contractors, whatever it may be. But that's mine. It's my pain. And
Hmm.
can I get out of that and get out of Ken's will? Because Ken's will is to stop. Ken's will is to
Hmm.
get out of pain, to get out of discomfort and go into God's will. What is the next indicated correct thing per my definition of God?
Yeah. Yeah. And how does that move you, having that discipline and accountability? How does that keep moving you forward?
Well, it keeps moving me forward because I'm doing things that many would not do.
Mm.
There's very few people that can outwork me. I'm just saying, I'm just giving my statement of
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
I got out of prison in 2007. I was 45 years old and I had lost a lot of years. I had no wealth, zero.
Hmm.
I owed, and I needed to make up for time. And I didn't have also have the knowledge of what was the next right thing to do business wise. I couldn't even get a job. All I could do was get a job in a warehouse. But I can outwork you. I can grind. Oh, I know grind. I speak about it, but I
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
So the discipline, and it's a great word. I love the word discipline. The discipline of keeping your eye on the prize and the willingness to again endure discomfort. And it's another subject I'm very sensitive. I was working on some things today. We were talking about it. I was writing about it. Is laziness,
Hmm.
sloth. It's just, it's one of the deadly sins. It's sloth,
Yeah.
and it's laziness. And why are people lazy? Because there's usually two reasons. One is they don't want the discomfort of doing the action. They'd rather be in inertia. And then the other one is they're fear-based. They're not courageous
Yeah.
to get out of literally the laziness. We a lot of times what is defined as being lazy, but really it's fear.
Yeah. I find that if you're doing something that brings about fear or discomfort, then you're probably doing the right thing, meaning it's going to cause you to grow and to learn. So one of the things for me, even starting this podcast, it was kind of a fear and a discomfort, and even doing workshops, leading workshops. Um, I just learned that, man, it kind of makes me nervous to do this, but why should I hold all this information that I've learned that's impacted my life and not share it with other people? And so the fear of, whether that's the fear of being judged or whatever that fear may be that causes you to kind of retreat, sometimes the more you lean into that, the more you can grow and learn as a person.
There's a lot about fear. I've been studying and working on it for about 20 years.
Mm,
And what do I mean by working on it? What does that mean, Ken? What that means is I've mentored upwards of 50 men.
okay.
At one time, I had 29 men all over the country that I actively mentored. And every single man that I've mentored, we talk about fear. It is our fundamental state of being for many men. Okay. So, what is fear? Fear is the future anticipation or expectation of pain. That's all fear is.
Mm.
We anticipated 1 second away. We anticipated a month away. We anticipated, a year from now. But it's just an anticipation or expectation of pain.
I,
How? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
oh
No
yeah.
problem.
Um, a friend of mine, Ken Jocelyn,
Huh?
I was having a conversation with him, and he talked about how there's only two fears that we are born with. One is the fear of falling, and I guess the fear of death. Maybe that was the other one. I can't remember what the other fear was, but all the other fears are learned.
Right.
So
We learn
everything,
death.
all the other fears that we have are learned, and there's only just,
Babies aren't afraid of death.
yeah,
They don't know what death is.
yeah.
They have no concept.
Oh, the
And I'm
fear of
not
loud
saying to the
noises.
wall.
So
Yeah.
it's the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's what
Okay.
it is.
Right. Right. Because that means danger. And
Hmm.
then we acquire, but we're also sort of been built into us. There's other things that are trigger danger.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I learned this when I was doing trade show exhibits. So things that have lighting, backlight, and then large is also perception of danger. But just going back to the learned fears. First of all, we want to learn fear. That's one of the things that matures us.
Yeah.
There are things in life that are dangerous. There are people that cannot perceive danger. They have their built-in danger meter is doesn't work well. There are people that trust everybody. You shouldn't trust everybody.
Hmm.
There are things that you will hear, see, or perceive through your senses that should give you pause for thought before you engage. So fear is beautiful. I don't have a problem with fear. It's what do we do with fear, and then how do we overcome fear in pursuit of God's will or something that is going to
Yeah.
be good for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
So now you said you spent a lot of time on the grind. Let's go into that a little more because I'd like to understand more what the grind is, how
Mhm.
people can use the grind to, whether it's in pursuit of greatness, whether it's in pursuit of, you know, advancing their career or whatever goals they may have. Let's talk a little bit more about the grind.
So the grind starts with a problem.
Okay.
Always. There has to be a problem. What is a problem? Because this is what I do. I break it down into the basic building block. A problem, very simply, is a set of circumstances that seeks a solution. That's what every problem is. 2 plus 2 is not a problem. 2 plus 2 is a statement. 2 plus 2 equals is a problem because it's seeking a solution.
Okay.
More than, less than, equals. Okay. So we've identified we have a problem. The problem is, I give a example is, I can use either athletics or I can use finance. Let's use finance.
Okay.
The problem is I don't have enough income to pay for my bills. That's a problem.
Okay.
So what I need to do as a full commission salesman is I need to have more opportunities to make the sale. So how do I do that? Well, that means I probably need to grind. So I was a salesman.
Mm.
1984, I get out of college. I started working for the Kodak, and then I worked for 3M, first 3M, then Kodak. And I realized there's two ways to quote unquote do sales. One is to have 10 proposals and close 8, or the other one is to have 40 proposals and close 10. I realized I couldn't, the quality of my close wasn't as good as these people have been doing this for years.
Hmm.
I just didn't put the proposals as well together. I didn't know what I was doing. But I knew that I could get 40 opportunities and close a smaller percentage. So how do you do that? You get on the phone and you make the cold calls. And this is not, I'm not exaggerating, I made 100 calls a day, period. And cold calling is not fun. It is not fun.
Not at all.
But I had guys who were, 2 cubicles down, would make 5 or 6 calls, set up appointments, and go out there and close 3 or 4 of them. I wasn't that guy.
Mm.
I wasn't that guy. And I had people as an examples when I got into that. So the grind, I have a goal. What can I do that is repetitive? The grind is always repetitive. And I tell
Hmm.
people, think of a coffee grinder. What a coffee grinder is takes something from one state of being
Hmm.
and it produces something on the back end and another state of being, which is ground. But in between, there's continual motion or action that has friction.
Mm.
That's what a coffee grinder is. And we take that same thing, whether it's athletics, whether it's economics, whether it's business, whether sometimes our relationships with our partners and others. We have to grind, okay, to meet their needs
Hmm.
and or to meet the needs of the relationship. So continue in motion with discomfort, friction. I like to use the word friction,
Yeah,
taking from one state of being to another state of being. That, my dear friend, is the grind.
that's amazing. Especially, I'm realizing that what's where I'm grinding what feels like a lot every day, but I feel like I'm grinding on the wrong activities. Well, I don't feel like I am. I know I'm grinding on the wrong activities because those activities aren't producing more income for the business a lot of times. It's more grinding in the business and not on expanding the business. So
So, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
so, and using your sales analogy too, it just made me realize, man, how many sales calls am I making? I need to have those targets each week to go, how many interior designers are we connecting with? How many architects are we connecting with? How many builders? And, create a target each week to grind that out because I think that's where I get sucked into my business of doing the everyday tasks and not grinding on the right things.
Correct. The caveat is busyness as an aspect of my self-esteem.
Mm,
And as an individual, many times we just want to, we're busy, so we think, oh, I'm doing it. Many times when you're grinding, you have to course modify. And so that's one of the important things that I talk to the guys I work with, and I have guys who mentor me. This is what I'm doing. This is my grind. Tim, what do you think? Jim, what do you think? Other
mm,
thing, Alphonse, these are guys who are my mentors, Tim
yeah.
Story, Alphonse Brown. What do you think? Is this a good utilization of this grind? Because there has to be, but you can grind with no results if the continuous actions, repetitive actions, are not ones that will or can bear fruit.
Hmm.
What is what? So I'm making cold calls, but if I cold call a list that has no opportunity to buy my product or service, yeah, I'm grinding, but for no use.
Yes.
So we need to have discernment. We need to be able to identify. And what I say to my guy, you should have this in writing. What is the grind?
Yeah.
Your present state of being. What is your continual repetitive action? What is the friction? Remember, we got to have friction, but we can turn a grind into a habit. Believe me on that. And there's things that I do that are, I'll give you one. For some people, getting up and being in the office at 5:30 in the morning is a grind.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a habit for me now. It's just a habit.
Yeah.
I'll be in here. I have one more meeting after this. I'll be in till 6 o'clock. I'm cool with that. I still do vacation. I just got back from Thousand Oaks. So, I get
Yeah.
out. I mean, and I get rewards. Man, have I been rewarded from my grind. But then again, so we have what is the friction, and then we have to have an equal. We have to have in pursuit of the aspiration, the goal, the dream. And then I recommend you have that in writing, and then you share that with your, mentor, your coach, your, advisor, and so we can course correct at times. And
That's
then, you've got to have your emotional
yeah. Yeah.
or
So,
spiritual, emotional, spiritual.
so I mean, that's one of the things I've learned a lot these past few years is, I mean, it is so important to have a coach or a mentor to help you get from point A to point B. So, how, what is the importance of a mentor for you that you've had in your life? How has that changed what you're doing, having a mentor? Or what impact?
Oh, the term. So let's talk about terms real quick,
Okay.
because I just had this conversation earlier today. The difference between a coach and a mentor, but they're all under the umbrella of trusted advisor.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. And if there's trust involved, that's an emotion. That is a state of being that I have an expectation of future action.
Hmm.
That's what trust is. Trust is an expectation of future action. And when I have a trusted advisor, the future action that I am believing in is that this individual will give me feedback that is in my best interest. That's what I'm seeking. Or empathy, because that's what a good mentor does also. I will give you information that you can use and utilize. And I always say this to my guys all the time. This is my suggestion. Okay. The other thing is I will give you emotional support as you walk through the challenge, the concern, the setback. That's what I do. So early on, when I got out of prison and moved back to Anchorage, Alaska, I identified a gentleman to be a mentor. And he's still my mentor. That was 2009.
Mm.
And and I've been mentoring men since 2010. So I have 3 mentors. I've had coaches. I have a speaking coach, but a coach is a financial
Yeah.
connection
Yeah.
between individuals. Mentoring is free.
Yeah. That's a great point because
Yes.
um, I find having someone mentor you that can have impact and it can have, a big impact, but putting out the money to hire a coach, that that means you've got more invested in your outcome or the results that you're trying to get. I mean, you're investing your not only your finances and your time to hire someone to help you get there, to basically shortcut 2 or 3 years off of where you want to go by hiring a coach. Um, so that's a great point. Mentors can be free, and a coach is someone that you pay for. I
Right.
like that distinction. Thank you for clarifying that.
I teach a class on this. I
Oh, that's
literally do a workshop on mentoring, coaching, and workplace sponsorship for the professional.
Okay.
So I spent, the best way to learn is to teach. And
Hmm.
one of the best ways. It's not, there are many good ways to learn, but I believe teaching, putting together the slide deck, putting together and listening to the feedback from the clients or the audience,
Yeah.
it has helped me. And I've been teaching that class for 13, 14 years.
Wow. Yeah, I have to agree, especially the more that I understand something that I've learned and then can turn around and teach it. That's one of the things I try to do whenever I go to a workshop or event. I try to
Mhm.
take at least one or two things that I can share with someone else that really helps lock in and solidify what I learned at that workshop.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I know we've kind of been talking about a bunch of things, but I wanted to at least talk about your book because I know that that's out now. You can get it on Amazon. I think you
Mhm.
can get it from your website as well. Uh, so tell me a little more about your book. Like, what's the core message of becoming kin?
The core message is truth and God.
Okay.
It's the same thing in my book.
Yeah.
But I mean, the key is that's why it's called becoming Ken. That's not how I talk to myself. I
Yeah.
wasn't Ken. I was ex-con. I was drug addict. I was criminal. And I just wanted to become Ken. Ken Miller, a
Mm.
child of God, a kind and gentle man.
Yeah.
And it took me a lot of years, a lot of experiences to that. My difficulty growing up, one of my main difficulties is identity. Who
Mhm.
am I? Who am I? And, because of my experiences, so my mother was a white teenage runaway prostitute. My dad was the drug dealer and pimp. Okay, my mom's white, Irish, and I always tell people I'm Black Irish. That's what
Mm.
I am. And so she put me up for adoption at birth because in 1962, mixed children were not common.
Yeah.
And I was I was not adopted. I went through foster homes for 6 years. And
Mm.
that experience, and I knew I was a foster child. You
Yeah.
know that. I was adopted and then moved from New York to Alaska. And I'm just trying to get some of the high level. The key component is my father was an alcoholic, a very violent alcoholic, so I had to deal with a lot of violence. He ended up shooting my mom 6 times and came to shoot me at my job, but the gun jammed, so he didn't get a chance to shoot me, which I'm glad. But having to deal with that situation, that was a tough one. And then the deal with the addiction and alcoholism that I manifested within 2 months of my first drink. I was a full-blown alcoholic at an Ivy League school. I'm an Ivy Leaguer. Got accepted to Harvard, went to Dartmouth, National Merit Scholar, all that good stuff. And here I am, a full-blown alcoholic. What that means, very simply, I'll just make this real simple, is that I had the inability to control how much I drink when I start. That's all it
Mm.
means. And under the influence of enough alcohol, I make really bad decisions. They seem like good decisions at that time, but
Mm.
they're really bad decisions. And I had the inability to drink without pain on the back end
Mm.
or any mind altering chemical. Now, I've had some chemicals because I had some operations, but I tell the doctor and I tell, my wife that, hey, you control the drugs, to get because they're pain relievers and stuff. I
Mhm.
don't play. I don't play. And I'm coming up on 21 years of being clean and sober. So it's
Wow,
it's
that's
a
amazing.
series of experiences, but there's lessons learned after every chapter for
Yeah.
business people, for individuals doing their walk. And there's moments of sublime horror. There are moments of sublime beauty in the book because I've had some incredible experiences happen to me, and I've had some things that have been so beautiful and the positive
Hmm.
that, and in the end, you remember the part says, and back again. I'm back. I've become Ken. I like who I am. I really like me. I'm good people. That's one of
Mm.
the terms we used to say on the streets. I mean, he's good people.
Yeah.
So that's somewhat what the book, but there's other things I can talk about. But you asked me the question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. So what's one piece of advice that you give in the book that you think people or anyone like me or someone from like me would be able to like latch on and start applying?
I have a lot of them, but one right off as soon as you said that, because it was such a key component for me. Take
Mm.
away the power of the secret. Take
Mm.
away the power of the secret. If you are harboring secrets, and especially secrets that are shame based, they will devastate you. They will eat you alive because your self talk is so negative. And what the shame base says, if you knew that I did this or was this, you would not associate, like me, or be with me.
Mm.
My greatest fear growing up is that I would die alone. That's always been my greatest fear, that I would die alone because I was always alone in the foster
Mm.
homes. I knew nobody wanted me. I knew that I was not loved. And so I was always afraid. So I'd always put on all these masks. And I was a pretty intelligent person. So I could put on different masks, whether I was on the street, in the penitentiary,
Mm.
in the club, in the corporate world, but they were masks. Today I'm me, but I had to take away. So my big, and I'll just talk about it. Hopefully it'll be fine. But my my big secret was that I was a male prostitute. I was turning tricks on the streets,
Mm.
paid for my crack cocaine. And I was so embarrassed by that. I was so less than because of that, that it made me, it made taking chemicals, because every drug does the same thing. Every single drug, it changes your perception of reality.
Yeah.
That's what a drug does. And whether it's aspirin, whether it's methamphetamine, it changes your perception. And my reality is that I'm less than, I'm not worthy.
Mm.
That's my reality. And I need to change that by any means necessary because I'm out here doing X, Y, and Z. And that I was so embarrassed by that and so shame based about it. Because let me just say one other thing. The difference between guilt and shame, and I talk about that. Guilt is I did.
Mm.
Shame is I am. Okay.
Yeah.
And I internalize that. And now I have no secrets. I speak from the stage about certain, depending on the
Yeah.
crowd and the topic, but I speak from the stage on this. And I've taken away the power of the secret. And there are people that like me. There's a lot of people that like me and respect me to this day, for my honesty, my transparency. So that's a big part of this book, is taking away the power of the secret, among many others.
That's amazing. I think that's great too. And I know that that can be a huge, what's the word? Just kind of almost like burden taken off of you
Oh,
when you can be transparent like that. I mean, it's hard for me to be honest, even in, in my marriage relationship, sometimes to be completely
mhm.
transparent because it's like you said, what will they think of me? Will they still love me and accept me? So it's, it's when you can have that kind of uh, openness and the burdens that are lifted off of you, I think can,
Beautiful. They're
yeah,
beautiful. You can
yeah,
see, I don't know if they'll be able to see me or not, but you can see it in my smile. You can see the
yeah,
way I share. I am so grateful and I am so full of joy. There are times where I'm 62. I lay in my bed and I just kick my legs because I'm just so happy to be alive.
yeah,
And I have a gift. My gift is the ability to speak and to share truth
hmm,
and be transparent and reveal things that maybe give you the power. I'm not saying you need to be on stage in front of 1,000 people and talk about this, but what I do say is find a trusted advisor, find someone that you can share this instead of having it bottled up here, and change the self-talk.
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool. So I'm excited to read your book when I get it. I've just ordered it on Amazon earlier, so
Thank you.
I'll get that. Um, so what's some other advice you would have for someone, whether it's someone young just getting started in their career, or in business, or a young entrepreneur? What's some advice you would have for someone is that is wanting to pursue the grind at becoming the best they can be?
There's a lot of advice I would give. So we talked about mentor. Get a mentor. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on from that. The other thing is define your why. Define your why. Why? Define the goal.
Hmm.
Find the goal. Work on courage. With courage, that is one of the greatest traits. Learn.
Hmm.
I always say this: I can teach you a lot of things, but I can't teach curiosity. I can't teach that. Be curious. Choose curious. I have a book study right after this, and the book we're reading is The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem. Understand what self-esteem is. Understand that. Be grounded in truth, and if you so believe, be grounded in God.
Hmm.
But that also means that you need to have, again, congruence between God's will and your will. Be kind and gentle to others. Learn to forgive.
Mm.
I'm not saying forget, learn to forget. My dad shot my mom. She died 30 years later, and she still had two bullets in her. Okay, he hit her 5 times. And he
Wow.
didn't take the two bullets out. I forgave him. I sat down with him and forgave. I wanted to kill him, literally. But that just perpetuates the
Hmm.
violence. Okay. But so learn to forgive. And I've had people hurt me badly, physically, let alone emotionally. I've forgiven every single person. I have no resentments, zero resentments, zero.
Mm.
Okay. Learn to forgive self. Understand and embrace your humanness. You will make mistakes. You will stub your toe. We have my keynote is on resilience. That's my keynote speech.
Hmm.
Resilience in the face of the known and the unknown. And they are different. But how do we come back from the setback? How do we overcome the impediment? Okay. And grinding can be one way, but that's a whole
Yeah.
nother thing. I mean, there's so many things that I would say. Let me try to give just one more good one. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I got this one.
Okay.
You are who you choose as your partner. It is probably the most important physical decision you'll have to make
Mm.
outside of God, but that's in the spiritual realm.
Hmm.
But in the earthly realm, who you choose, and I sometimes put it out there, who you choose to sleep with is
Yeah.
going to make or break you. I'm 100 on that.
Yeah.
Is that person life affirming? Does that person identify, understand, and meet your needs? And that goes both ways too.
Hmm.
So anyway, you're young, you may not have someone, but again, it's one of the most important. You are who you hang out with, but we're talking about the person that you choose to live with or engage and marry. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's great. Well, Ken, I know you have another appointment after this, so I just want to be respectful of your time, and I appreciate you being here. I mean, this was a great conversation. I took some notes, and I'll be sharing some of these notes that I've learned just to, as we talked about, teach someone else. So, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Look forward to reading your book, and man, God bless and stay great.
Thank you. I'm so appreciative of you making the time. And if anybody, I just put this always out, anybody wants to get a hold of me, just go to Ken Miller 84 on LinkedIn and you'll be able to communicate with me. And again, just thank you. Thank you for having the courage to create this podcast and do it. Because so many times we say we're going to do something. It took me 3 years to do this book, 3 years. I have another book in process right now. It'll probably take me a month and a half to write that book.
Wow. Hey, thank you for joining us today on Beyond Average to Great. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to show your appreciation is by subscribing to our show and sharing it on your social media channels. Don't forget to tag me when you do. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, remember, be great.